Hello everyone, it's Jennifer McGuire here. I wanted to do a video showing you how I use the Simon Says Stamp March card kit. In particular, the stamp set that's in it. It's just fabulous. And I used it for one of my favorite techniques that I call ghost stamping. And I did it on two different cards. There's this one here that's a light color Kraft. And then I also did it on another card, just to show you the difference, on a darker color Kraft. This ghost stamping is a fun technique that you can do on different colors of cardstock, but I like it especially on Kraft cardstock. So I'll show you first the light, and then I'll show you how to do the dark. They're both the same technique. So this is the stamp set in the card kit, or you can buy it individually. It's just fantastic. And I'm going to use it on two different colors of Kraft cardstock. On the left you'll see is the Desert Storm cardstock, and it's a softer, lighter Kraft. And on the right is the Hero Arts Kraft cardstock, and it's more like a paper bag kind of cardstock, a little bit darker. And I'll be using the Hero Arts Memories Unicorn ink. This is a white pigment ink, and it's my favorite white ink that shows really bright and vibrant on colored cardstocks. The Color Box Frost White is also good. So I'm going to ink up the stamp really good, and I'm going to start with the light colored cardstock first. Just going to stamp it on there. You want to press pretty firmly. With pigment inks, you want to make sure you get really good coverage on that stamp before you stamp it. Now this will be very wet for a while. If I touch this, it'll smear. So what you'll want to do is heat set it really good, or set it aside and come back to it later. I'm impatient, so I just heat set it with my heat gun. And you'll see it's really pretty against that Kraft cardstock. Now I wanted to do this cool ghost technique. You see where you can see the white and the color peeking out from each other? I just love the look, and I do this with a dye ink. You could use any kind of dye ink for this. I'm using the Hero Arts Shadow inks. I just like the colors. And I'm going to actually stamp it over the original, just slightly offset, so you can see the petals of the orange are in between the petals of the white. And you can see where it overlaps. It looks like this ghost-like image. Now I'm using vibrant shadow inks here, vibrant dye inks. Any dye ink will work. But I find that the vibrant looks better because it kind of takes on the color of the Kraft. Because dye ink absorbs into the paper, it'll kind of take on the color of the Kraft. If you want it to be more true to color, you'll want to use a pigment ink, which sits more on top of the paper. But there you see how the dye ink overlaps with the white pigment ink and gives you this great shadow look. It gives it a little bit of a dimension. So I wanted to show you the rest of the card here. I decided to stamp the greeting at an angle, just for something different. I normally don't do this, and I'm not sure if I love it, but I thought I'd give it a try. This is a greeting from the stamp set. I think the stamp set has some great greetings. I love the font on it, and I'm using my Hero Arts black dye ink. I use this black dye ink for almost everything. It's a great ink, and it stamps wonderfully on top of the other dye ink that I've stamped and on top of the pigment ink. So I'm just going to stamp this at an angle. This is a great way to not have to worry about lining something up too. And you'll see that that black really pops out against the white and the color behind it. Now I wanted to scatter some other little elements along it. This stamp set has some great little pieces to kind of scatter along. So I'm going to take those pieces off the stamp set, and I'm going to stamp those also with the white pigment ink. So I'll stamp a few times in the center of the flowers. So I'm just going to ink it up and stamp it there. Now if you stamp this and you want it to be more vibrant, because these are clear stamps, you can stamp it again right on top of it very easily, and it'll end up being more intense. Now I'm going to scatter a few of these little dots along too. So I'm going to stamp these with the white pigment ink in just different places. You could cut this apart and just have individual dots, but I'm going to keep the cluster together. It just makes it quicker to do. Now as I did with the ghost stamping on the flowers, I first stamped with white, and then I stamped again slightly offset with a dye ink. I'm going to do the same with these dots. So I'm using a yellow dye ink and stamping over the white dots, but slightly offset. Just gives it that fun look of dimension. You could leave this yellow part off, but I thought the little punch of yellow was fun to add. So there you can see the ghost stamping that you get with the white pigment ink and then the colored dye inks on top. And I finished this off by adding it to a white note card. I just kept it simple. Now I wanted to show you how these inks work on a darker color Kraft. I like both the light and the dark Kraft. I think it just depends on the project. So I think they're both good to have on hand. And this also works nicely on the darker color. So I went ahead and stamped 3 white flowers from that same stamp set using the white unicorn ink once again. And then I'm going to stamp over it using some more dye inks. This time I'm going to use some pink, orange, and yellow. Now again, if you don't have the Hero Arts Unicorn white ink, you could use any white pigment ink. That just happens to be my favorite. And you can see the fun look that you get by stamping slightly offset with the dye ink over your first white stamped flower. Now, since this flower isn't solid, you don't get as much of the ghost stamping look that you did with the first card that I did, but I think it gives a really cool effect you can see there. It's kind of an optical illusion that's kind of fun. So this ghost stamping works with pretty much any kind of image that you would want to use, and it's great for background stamps. If you don't happen to have any Kraft cardstock, you could try this on a paper bag and just cut a piece out and put it on a card. Nobody will ever know the difference. And again, I'm going to stamp my greeting at an angle here just for something fun and different. I'm using that black Hero Arts dye ink once again. Now this seemed too simple for me. I decided I wanted to add some fun to it, so I'm going to add those little dots again. And I'll do some offset stamping on them, but this time with a green ink. So you can see I'm just doing this quick and easy. This is a really fast card to pull together. I also wanted to have a solid white dot at the center of each of these flowers, but I didn't have a stamp for that, so I'm using an eraser. So I just bought a newer pencil, keep the eraser nice and perfect. Just going to ink it up with my white ink and just stamp it right onto my project. And there you go, you have a perfect dot for the center of your flower. Very easy to do, and I just keep this pencil on hand and I use it all the time for little dots with any kind of ink. I added a little pearl to the center of these also. So there you have it, some ghost stamping by overlapping white pigment ink with some colored dye ink on both light and Kraft cardstock. If you have any questions, please visit simonsaysstamp.com or jennifermcguireinc.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.